Croydon Mayor, Get It Right for Us, Saturday 23rd of April 2022. A chance for people with a learning disability and or autism who live in Croydon to meet the people who want to be the next Mayor of Croydon, to ask them questions and tell them what we think about living in Croydon and how things could be better for everyone. The event was organised and attended by members of Club Soda, Croydon Mencap, Croydon People First, Buddies Croydon and Willow Learning for Life. All 8 candidates were able to come to the meeting. This is the order they are listed on the ballot paper, the paper you mark your vote on. Richard Howard, Liberal Democrats; Farah London, Taking the Initiative Party; Winston Mckenzie, Independent; Gavin Palmer, Independent; Andrew Pelling, Independent; Jason Perry, Conservatives; Val Shawcross, Labour; Peter Underwood, Green Party.
So here are all the candidates. They are Councillor Jason Perry, Conservative; Councillor Andrew Pelling, Independent candidate; Councillor Val Shawcross. Val Shawcross, Labour; Peter Underwood, Green Party; Farah London, Taking the Initiative Party; Richard Howard, Liberal Dems; His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Winston Mckenzie, Independent; and Gavin Palmer, Independent. We'd like to invite the mayoral candidates to give us a quick elevator pitch. Now, candidates, please would you introduce yourselves and tell us why you are standing to be Mayor of Croydon. Please also tell us what kind of music gets you up on the dance floor, and don't worry, we won't make you. You have 2 minutes only. So who are all the candidates? They are Councillor Jason Perry, Conservative; Councillor Andrew Pelling, Independent candidate; Councillor Val Shawcross. Val Shawcross, Labour; Peter Underwood, Green Party; Farah London, Taking the Initiative Party; Richard Howard, Liberal Dems; His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Winston Mckenzie, Independent; and Gavin Palmer, Independent. We'd like to invite the mayoral candidates to give us a quick elevator pitch. Now, candidates, please would you introduce yourselves and tell us why you are standing to be Mayor of Croydon. Please also tell us what kind of music gets you up on the dance floor, and don't worry, we won't make you. You have 2 minutes only.
Can you all hear me? Yeah. Hi, hello. Thank you very much indeed for inviting all of us along today. Not sure the best place to stand is, so you can all see us. So thank you very much for inviting us all along today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Jason Perry, and I'm the Conservative candidate for Mayor of Croydon. I'm a Croydon boy, lived in Croydon all my life. My family are here in Croydon, and I live down in South Croydon, so it's a pleasure to be here. Really, I look forward to this event today. It's a different event. It's slightly different to the other events that we've been to. What I've learned over the last few years is the importance of the community in Croydon, the community groups, and the people that make Croydon such a fantastic place to live. We know Croydon is having some difficulties at the moment. But I think with the communities and working together, we can make Croydon that better place that we all want to aspire to and live in. And I hope, listening to you today, I'm looking forward to learning lots, frankly. I know that you'll have a lot of information to impart, but I know that many of the key things are about skills and independence and having a voice. And I very much look forward to hearing those things from you today. I think probably coming up to my 2 minutes, so thank you very much, and I look forward to chatting with you today. Thank you.
One more thing. You didn't tell us what song you'd like to get up and dance.
I'm a boy of the 80s, I'm afraid, so it'd be 80s music that would get me up very reluctantly on the dance floor. So I would not be the first in the queue. So thank you very much, thank you. Is this going on?
Thank you. Thank you everyone for having me here today. It's incredible to be here. I'm not going to stand here and pretend I understand the struggles you go through every day, because I don't. But I am here because I'm here to listen and to understand. I want to change things. I want to bring humanity back to politics, because quite frankly, we don't have humanity left anymore. And that's what encouraged me to stand. And I do want to represent you and be your next Mayor of Croydon. Now, my sister, she is disabled, and I see the struggles that she goes through. And what sickens me is how the two-party political system is penalising our communities. Now, the Conservative Party came out 2 weeks ago on the news. They have had over 400 million spent fighting claims for the disability community to stop the allowances. And in Labour, they're the ones actually declining the disability allowances. So it sickens me that this two-party political system is causing this to any community, anywhere. And that's why we need to bring change. I want to be that change for you, and I'm here to make sure that all communities have accessibility, they're listened to and represented. We do not need to have people making decisions who don't understand your everyday needs. And that's why I want to change things. I want to make sure when decisions are being made, you are involved. You can put forward community representatives that will be there to help us make the right policies. Because this is serious. This is people's lives, and you deserve to have your voice heard. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul.
What kind of music do you like?
Very important. I love dancing. Absolutely love dancing. But let's see, I love house music, I love a bit of R&B, I love some jazz, so I love music, full stop. Peter Underwood from the Green Party.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming along today. My name is Peter Underwood, and I'm the Green Party candidate for Mayor. There's 3 reasons why I wanted to stand for Mayor. The first one is to put power back in people's hands. That means giving you a say in the decisions that affect you. Unfortunately, in politics, you get a vote every so often, but then you're ignored for 4 years until the next time they want you to vote. That's not my way of doing politics. So I want to make sure that people are involved right at the start, that you can bring forward the issues that you want answered, and you have a say in the decisions that affect your life. The second reason why I wanted to be involved standing for Mayor is to get Croydon Council working again. Croydon Council isn't working for anybody at the moment, apart from really rich executives who get paid too much and then disappear. We need to get the council working for people again, and we need to have that focus back in the council that they're there to serve people. The third reason I'm standing, I put under the thing, just making Croydon happy. People of politics have forgotten that politics should be about making people's lives better. And that should be something that goes through everything that the council does, the question, how is this making people's lives better? So that's why I'm standing for Mayor. I'll be really interested to hear what questions you have today. Thank you very much.
What music do you want?
I'm going to pick a song that was released before I was born, because I'm really young, but Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys.
Oh, yeah.
From the Labour.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Val Shawcross, and I've lived in Croydon for 37 years now. I live up near Crown Point, for any of you who know Crown Point in Upper Norwood. And my husband is here with me today. He's just going to wave me. Oh, he's not, he's hiding. Shy. I'm 64 years old, actually, and I was the council leader in Croydon in the 1990s, many years ago, when we installed the tram, and I went on from there to be up at City Hall, and I worked particularly on two things that I really enjoyed doing and found incredibly important in a way. One was I helped run the fire brigade for 8 years, and the other is I spent 6, 7, 8 years working on transport issues. So I was the deputy mayor to Sadiq Khan, and I'm thinking of one thing I did that you might like is I introduced the hopper bus ticket, where you can go from bus to bus to bus on the same ticket. So if ever you look me up on Google, I hope you'll find that everything I've done has been constructive. I've tried to be a practical politician and somebody who doesn't spend their time knocking blocks of other people or criticise them, but focus on trying to do things well for the community. The reason why I'm standing now is I'm very upset about the state of Croydon. I'm very unhappy about the town centre. I'm very unhappy about the crime that's happening and the litter on our streets. I'm really, really distressed about how some basic services like the repairs in council houses are not very well run. And I think people of Croydon deserve better, and that includes all my friends and neighbours who live in Croydon as well. So I'm here because I want to stand to help use my experience to run Croydon better. And I'm also here today to hear about what your lives are like and how you find living in Croydon and what you'd like to see improved. And I know there's many things that are wrong. It's a long time since I've been a council leader in Croydon, so there's many things I need to learn to bring up to date. So thank you for today. My favourite music, well, when I was young, I was actually brought up in a town called Manchester in the north of England. And what we were all into as kids, and you might not know this, was a music we called Northern Soul. And we used to dance and throw ourselves around on the floor in the youth clubs and get a bit wild, but we were not dangerous, we were just noisy. And so I like Tam the Motown music, if any of you know that. Yeah, but I think if you ask me what my favourite song is a very nice song called Walk On By. Yeah, that one. And the other thing I really like to do is read poetry. And because before I went into... Am I finished?
Thank you very much.
I also like to talk to people.
Okay, we have an Excellency Ambassador Dr. Winston Mckenzie.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic to see you all. And the organisers of this great event today, I just want to say a big thank you. Give me the opportunity. My name is Winston Mckenzie. I'm a former national amateur boxer, ex-professional boxer. I have a dynasty of champion boxers. We've done so much for the borough. I decided years ago to throw after a very serious eye injury, to throw my efforts into community work through Marianne Bonnet, former Mayor of Croydon. She's taught me everything I know about politics. Ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you today. I am in the process of bringing new money and new footfall to this borough. I'm not interested in all what everyone's done or what they haven't done or their mistakes. What I do know is that we're sinking. Croydon is sinking fast. We need new money. In the past years, I introduced the Croydon Youth Games and many school initiatives and asked the youth to put the games on. Never heard of before in Croydon. Get the youth involved. They put the games on and we introduced the Croydon Youth Games. I ran it on 2 occasions, single-handedly, and became homeless. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been appointed to the United Nations as an ambassador. I have a whole team of United Nations entrepreneurs behind me. They are pledging to introduce millions of pounds into our economy. It is so important. And I tell you today, focus on the money. Vote for your favourite councillor, but look and focus on a mover and a shaker. I have proof of funding. The funding is where it's at. Check me out. And I love Bob Marley. He's a philosopher. Listen to his words carefully. They don't want to see us unite. All they want us to do is keep on fussing and fighting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next Howard.
Reggae and soul.
Hello, my name's Richard Howard. I live very close here, actually. I live just on Croydon Avenue, so it's, I know this place reasonably well. So I'm standing to be Mayor of Croydon because I want to be the Mayor for all people of Croydon. And what goes to the heart of being a Liberal Democrat is helping people to live their lives as they wish, with the freedom to do what they want and achieve what they can, their potential. Now, unfortunately, there are sometimes barriers and hurdles that hold people back. So I see my job as Mayor to try and break down those barriers to people in this room and across Croydon. The other thing I would say is I want to see more of the decision-making taking place in places like this, in halls like this, in community groups, in local parish councils, town councils. Take the power outside of Central Croydon, Bird Weather House, and make the decision making here, because this is where the people have the right ideas. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I do know that all the answers will be sitting in this room today. So as much as I'll be saying what I think should happen, I'll be sat scribbling furiously to find out what you think is the things that need to happen. When it comes to music, I like playing music more than I like dancing to music, I would say to that. And I would say other people much prefer me playing music than watching me dance. So I think that goes without saying. The type of music I like a real wide range. I'm a rocker at heart, I've got to admit. I love the Manic Preachers, the Foo Fighters, Killers, those sort of bands themselves. However, there is a song that gets me on the dance floor every single time, and I really hope you don't play it because you really don't want to do that. And that song is I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. It's just such an amazing song. So that's me. I'm Richard Howard. I'm standing for the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Richard. Untitled.
Actually, I'd just like to ask a question before we start. Is there anyone in here who is hearing impaired? Okay. No, I'm still a bit uncomfortable about being here without there being no sign language, to be honest. But okay, well, I'll carry on. Well, first of all, when it comes to dancing and music, because I'll forget it at the end.
Well, I'm just worried about speaking too loudly, because I thought some people were a bit too loud, that's why I took it away from my mouth. Well, I decided when I was 4 that I was no good at painting and I was no good at art, so I thought I'd do something that didn't require any skills. So I was a bit presumptive at age 4, but I decided I would become a politician. But when it comes to music, it's a very controversial issue at the moment, actually, because one of the reasons why I was recently terminated as a member of the Labour Party was because I was accused of abusing 2 songs on social media. One was, to the Labour Party, "Don't You Want Me Baby," and the other was, "Don't Leave Me This Way." And there was something wrong, I'm afraid, with the governance of the Labour Party locally, that they would get people out of their party on that basis. But I want to leave important messages with you on the subject of our meeting today. I think that we need to get rid of the word disability in the same way that we got rid of the word handicap in the past. I think it is about celebrating difference. It's about finding means of helping those who may have disabilities, who for most people it looks like a very small and minor barrier to being able to be a full part of society, but actually to remove those barriers. I think also we need to be very aware that there are many non-visible disabilities that people have, particularly when a third of us, including myself, could basically be defined as being neurodiverse. We need to be tolerant. We need to be tolerant of people's differences, and indeed to celebrate them. I'll just finally finish with a story. I was in New Ellington at lunchtime today. My time has almost run out, but I'll be quick. A lady tells me she can't climb the 14 steps to her home any longer. Her family want her to be a little bit closer to her in New Ellington so that they can look after her and actually would save the council money. And it's those type of sensible approaches to looking after people that would both save the council money and save and help the needs for the people here who are in this room. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gavin Palmer, Independent.
Hi, my name is Gavin Palmer and I've got a voice that carries, probably because my father was the Lieutenant Commander in the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve in the Second World War and actually fought for the country. So, our family have been here for 120 years. Most of the time I'm not interested in politics. I certainly wasn't interested in politics before 1993-94. And I got in because, quite frankly, I've had enough. I've really had enough of how badly run the fraud, the corruption, this management, whatever you want to call it, that's happening in Croydon now. And I really appreciate the ability. I have a slightly 6 out of 10 autistic son, and there are solutions that come from people like that, the oddballs that don't do it. Now, I've been to a dozen hustings or so with a lot of these candidates. And you, with an hourglass, have the best and most sensible solution for a 2-minute time period. And it's just great, instead of beeping, going off, or being told to be quiet, etc. So it's using the talents of Croydon. And we have lots of talents. I've gone round and people who have left Croydon because they're so frustrated. They offered their charity and support, and Croydon Council said no. I met a woman who wanted to move out of a 4-bedroom house into a 1 or 2 bedroom, and Croydon Council wasn't interested. And I meet someone else just the other day in New Ellington who's been hospitalised in coma and is going to be suing the council, and she needs to move out from a 2-bedroom house with her 4 kids and go into a 4-bedroom. I mean, this is nuts. So there's lots of solutions out there, most of which are either not wanting to be heard or not recorded. And This talent in the country and in Croydon needs to be used. We've got so much wasted talent. And to be a catalyst for that, I'm known for causing change. I've done it most of my life at school, at university, in corporate governance throughout the country, in the management and running of companies, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished and achieved. Sometimes just quietly in the background, putting an idea back, I get a thank you letter from the Minister of State for one of the other departments, or it gets adopted as a plan. That's the sort of thing that I would bring to Croydon, and use the talents and abilities that we've got in Croydon and the education. And in terms of my song, if I'm going out, I love to play James Brown, I Feel Good. I'm a good salsa dancer, so I like salsa. But basically I'm kind of Radio 2 as it is now, because that's 90s music and everyone loves the music that they grew up with between the age of about 12 and 20. So that's me, Gavin Palmer. Thank you.
The community, and how can you help Croydon give people in Croydon a better life?
I live in Croydon, and I don't like how Croydon is, because when I go out late at night, people take advantage of me, and I'm vulnerable in Croydon.
Hello everybody, my name is Sean. I've been living in Enniscombe for the last 6 years. I'm a member of Willow for the last year, but it's been in the flats where I live. The last couple of years there's been gangs ranging from like a couple of nights up to about 5. There's been rowdy and taking small drugs, and they even urinate in the flats sometimes. But people are scared to go out and tell it. So someone left a notice on the door asking please not do it. And we have a nice life, we don't want anything like that, even like people doing it where you live. The girls also told the police, I just heard this morning, but hopefully they'll learn not to do it and just go away if someone, I don't know if they've got nowhere to go, but they must do something. That's it really.
People here just there me to smoke fires. People started me just where they was coming from Croydon. Somebody in Winston was crossing the woods and just hit me on the face.
Emma.
More to keep me. So how would you make people with learning disabilities feel safer?
next we're going to talk about transport. So, Lauren, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, I hope so. If not, I'll interject.
Well, we have to address attitudes, incentives, and culture in terms of the schools, respecting for the elders and betters, and to people that have a goal to make, like the motto of Croydon, strive for perfection and better.
Everything's been cut. In 1996, 1997, I launched the Croydon Youth Games. I called the teachers, I called the police, I called people in authority to the Fairfield Hall for a conference on gun and knife crime. It's just been put by the wayside. It's been completely forgotten. Just recently, a couple of days ago, another young man lost his life in Croydon. We can't constantly continue to turn a blind eye. I have the backing of the United Nations behind me. There are immediate funds available to put people in the places where they need to be. There has been nothing but cut after cut after cut by each political party. Ladies and gentlemen, a change is needed.
I think the way we need to help people to feel safe in Croydon is to have just a greater understanding and a greater empathy for different people and the diverse ways that people live their lives. So I think a lot of these come about, these incidents that we talked about, quite horrendous issues, that they come about through ignorance, people not understanding what it's like to live their lives the way that you choose to live your life. I think it starts in schools. We've got to make sure that we have that understanding, but also bringing people together in communities and community groups, but also trying to bring young people and people with different needs together so that people can understand what it's like, and hopefully we can put a stop to some of these incidents that we've heard.
We have extreme poverty now in Croydon, and with extreme poverty, crime also increases. So that's why I want to lift people up out of poverty and give them opportunities that they deserve, because no one should not have opportunities. Our youth are intelligent, but unfortunately they're being groomed by gangs because they're very vulnerable. And I want to make sure in schools we have counsellors available all the way from primary, going all the way up to college, so we can actually help families as well and help educate parents that need the help that they need. Because we need to win this fight together, and we need to make sure that the council funds are going in the right places to make sure all communities who are facing any vulnerabilities are receiving the help and focus that they need, because we all deserve to feel safe in our homes. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, if people feel that nobody cares about them, they tend not to care about other people. And I think that's one of the problems we've got going through our town and wider culture. And that, for me, is why we need to get people, put that power back in people's hands, give people a say in what's happening, improving their area, give them that power so they feel they're part of making their area better, and that they're looking after their community because they feel valued as part of their community. So that no involves just listening to particularly young people, but it's actually all generations, it's not just young people. And also working with those people who are already working in the community to help tackle some of these problems. There are people out there who are already doing great work. They need more support from the council rather than just the council coming in and posting their ideas. We need to be working with those people who are already achieving success to make us all feel safer.
I think it's very important that we work harder to stop young people being excluded from schools for bad behaviour, because that is usually the moment when they become more at risk of being drawn into gangs, tempted in with money, etc. Now I think all of the schools do try very hard to keep the pupils in schools, and they need more support to do it. And this is something the council could be helping to mobilise, because we know there are many businesses that would want to provide mentors, interested adults who can spend time with young people, educating them, giving them confidence. We know that there's many charities, faith groups, churches, community organisations that would be willing to come into schools and help young people, pay them some attention, give them some love, give them some advice. And I think we could help mobilise that for every school. That would be a big help. I also think parents do need support as well. Sometimes the support available in the community or in the council, people and young people don't know it's there. So we should actually be providing apps that give people information about who can I go to get some welfare benefit advice. Who can I go to when my teenager is getting very difficult and I don't know where to turn? So I do think we need to give more information to people about what's available. Lastly, I would say that there are facilities and things in Croydon and we need more of them. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Legacy Centre, which is a fantastic youth centre. We need to be starting to put good youth facilities back into the community. They've all been cut. We need to find a way of doing it. Legacy Centre is interesting because it's a mixture of business money, charity money and council money. We can do projects like that around Croydon. Yes, we need more police. The council can't put police in, but we can at least work and support them as well. Thank you.
Well, 30 seconds isn't very long to talk about such a big issue. Excuse me for turning away from you. First of all, Sean, obviously one of the problems with housing estates is that the way that the council has been run so badly financially, that a foolish cuts have been made to neighbourhood support officers. They don't cost very much money, but if you haven't got their support dealing with low-level crime on housing estates, then you've got a very real problem. I think that the 20 points that I put forward in terms of solving Croydon Council's financial problems means you're going to have the money to be able to put those people back in place. I've been around a long time, it's fair to say. I've been the MP here, been the London Assembly member, and I've been a councillor in 12 different wards. So I'm very aware of the issue of knife crime. A lot of us have been involved in diversionary activity, trying to mentor people, but perhaps some of us who are a bit older ought to be giving way to younger people who can mentor people and try and encourage them away from gang activities and from knife crime. Now I'm going well over 30 seconds, so now I'll rush the last two. I believe that we should tax businesses in the town centre with the workplace parking levy, and some of that can be used around transport and policing around transport, because I know for vulnerable people, the experience sometimes of being got at is even more frightening than for others. And for those people with difference need to be helped when they're travelling by public transport with extra policing on the trams and on the buses. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much, and thank you to the contributors. Great to hear your stories, but good to hear your stories. I think getting neighbourhood officers, caretakers back onto our housing estates is going to make a real difference. Working with the local police, we've got local safer neighbourhood panels, and getting involved with the safer neighbourhood panels so that you're actually directing what local police are looking at. As others have said, early intervention in schools to try and stop the gang culture and to stop the exclusion pipeline coming from schools. Make sure that our young people know that they're loved and they're worthy. And working with the community to ensure that tolerance and that empathy is coming out into the community to make others more aware of what the community is doing, and mentoring young people and also mentoring parents. That's going to be a great need going forward. So it's probably about my 30 seconds done. So thank you very much.
I'm Wendy. Bus drivers are stopping me from getting on the buses. I have an electric scooter. You can see it just parked over there. And I like to get that, because I've had not putting the ramp out. They're just closing the door after letting the rest of the passengers off and driving off. And I have to sit there and wait until a fifth bus would let me on, come rain or shine. I did look into about electric buggies. I forgot a book. So please, can you do something about it on wheelchairs and electric scooters? Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Laurie. When getting on the buses during peak hour, the buses are quite packed and one has to stand, which can be quite tricky. Is it possible that they could arrange to get separate buses for school kids?
People without disabilities use disability areas.
When I'm getting off the bus, why do the driver shut the door and
In Croydon, people on buses can be noisy and can be frustrating at times. How will you make public transport better for people with learning disabilities?
Hello, thank you very much again. Thank you very much for your contributions. I mean, clearly there's an issue here around buses and bus drivers not using the facilities that are on the buses. The ramps are there. Probably most of our buses are now designed to take wheelchairs, etc. I remember a few years ago coming back from a Crystal Palace game, and the bus was packed with Crystal Palace supporters. We stopped at the stop and there was a guy in a wheelchair, and the bus driver just said no, waved him away and shut the doors. And we all shouted at the bus driver, no, you're letting him on. And we all squashed up the back of the bus. We made the driver let that person onto the bus. And I think that's kind of what we've got to do. If we're on the buses and people like yourself are being refused, we need to stand up and say to the driver, you've got the facilities, use them, and we need to be more tolerant. I think the other thing we need to do is get our shelters back, our bus shelters, because they've all gone because the council's messed up the contract. And so even when you're waiting for the bus, you're waiting in the rain. So we need to do that. And I think there's clearly an issue with buses. So I think we need a round table with the user groups to actually get the bus companies there, get the transport providers there, and actually let you tell them exactly what you're experiencing and let them answer you as to why they're not doing it. And then perhaps they'll start listening, go back to their drivers and train their drivers properly to look after everybody in our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. As Jason has said, you're waiting for your fifth bus, but you really do want the bus shelters back. It really is very unfortunate that the council's mucked up that process. They were promised almost now 2 years ago, and the bus shelters need to be put in. So, I very much sympathise with you, Wendy. I think it's a matter of good communication with bus companies to report them, the drivers when that happens, and good training for bus drivers, as per the other question that was asked, to be aware. I think it's also important to say that I've talked about how Sentiment has changed in society after COVID. People are more caring of each other. And therefore we ought to have a Croydon, I can see there's a sceptic back there, but I do think that people are talking to each other more, and therefore, it is important to have a Croydon Cares policy where you're encouraging people to have a better understanding of each other's needs. Can I also say that the council has had, before COVID, a vehicle for communicating with those who may well have impairments or be different, and there's a very good officer that has driven that, and actually that needs to be reinvigorated now that we are beginning to move out of a COVID environment. But ultimately, it is about having a mayor who's going to stand up on behalf of people. I think when you're making a judgment about which particular person you want to select, you've got to make a judgment amongst us as to who really is going to be outspoken. And I certainly have not been shy about being outspoken. You wouldn't have gone through 2 political parties to have got to that particular stage. And so that's why I say to you, I'm going to work for you, not a political party, when it comes to being your mayor. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that still happens, because it should not be happening. You should not be treated like that. You shouldn't be left on the street, and I think it is disgraceful. Transport for London took over training all of the bus drivers, even though they're employed by different companies, to try and stop that sort of thing happening. And it is a real shame and disgrace that it's still happening. I would say to you that we all should be complaining when we see that. Either if it happens to you, take a note of the time, the bus number, and the number on the side of the bus, and make a complaint, because TfL want to hear. Or go to somebody who can complain for you, your local council can complain for you. Or even if it's just something I see happening to somebody else, I will take a note and complain. The other thing is, if you're buggy, I know some buggies will fit in the space or allowed, and other buggies are bigger and they won't. I think you can get a letter to say whether or not your buggy does qualify to get into the bus, and then you've got something to show the driver if he or she is being difficult. But I'm really sorry to hear that's happened. We used to have, I'm sure we still have, a really good disability transport user group in Croydon. Steve Nasonford, our old friend, was a member of it. So I would really suggest anybody who's interested in this joins that group and talks to them, because they've got all the lines sorted about how they can talk to people. On school buses, because these days children live from very wide areas around school, and it's not a simple route from a school to a community, what Transport for London tend to do is to try and put on some extra service buses to the schools. So you will see some big secondary schools sometimes at the bump out time when the kids are coming out, will have an empty bus in front of it. So they try and put a little bit more capacity into that bus service where they know there's going to be lots of kids going. But it would be great actually if more kids would walk. Because if you're going a short distance, it's a really healthy thing to do. And the thing that worries me is that I think sometimes children are taking the bus because they're a bit afraid of being out on the street. And if we could tackle the crime gang issue better, I think young people might feel freer to walk about on the streets.
I think there are two important issues here. The first one is that Croydon is designed around people using cars. So it isn't designed around those of us who rely on public transport or walking or even those who can cycle. The whole focus in terms of how Croydon is designed and laid out is for cars. We need to shift that so there's much more focus on providing far better and far more accessible public transport and walking facilities, cycling facilities, so that people can get around safely. The other thing is the fact that in terms of how those services are designed, they tend to be designed by people who don't have mobility issues, who don't have visual impairments, who don't have learning difficulties, and they don't take into account the needs and requirements of those people when they're designing the services. So that's equally why we need to get those voices in there right at the start in how we redesign those services, how we train people who are working in those services, so bus drivers, tram drivers, people like that, so they're aware of the issues that people face when using those public transport every day. Now, all of those problems can't necessarily be solved at Croydon level. As Mayor of Croydon, I will have some influence over those, but as already been mentioned, transport is transport for London we need to work with. We also need to pressure the national government who are cutting all the money for transport for London to keep the service cut back as much as possible. We need to move in the opposite direction, so we've got more buses, more trams, more facilities, so they're not undergrounded, so there aren't spaces for people to travel in them. So we need to be working not only on the Croydon level, but as Mayor of Croydon is lobbying with people on the London Assembly and with national government, giving your voice to say that what we've got isn't good enough, we need better.
I'm going to respect 30-second rule because I respect rules, and that's what you kindly asked us all to do. So the problem is we have lack of accountability. Drivers have been able to get away with this because we have no leadership. And that's why we need a strong leader who listens, but also has their eye on the ball to make sure that all our services are performing. No driver should be doing that. They shouldn't be noisy, you're right. So we need to make sure we have cameras and everything within the buses which actually are being used, because buses are a form of transport which are very important. We need to make sure we are keeping an eye on everything. Sorry, if that makes sense.
So, I agree with Val that there needs to be a way that we can make sure these issues are raised up to TfL. Now, TfL's motto is "Every journey matters," but it doesn't seem like your journey matters to that bus driver, and it needs someone to be able to raise those issues. And I can see how frustrating it is to do on your own. So I think we need a way that these issues can be raised where not only they go direct to TfL, but also the council and the mayor have visibility on it. I also like Jason's idea of a round table and joint meetings between Transport for London and TfL. And as part of a wider issue, that people who are having trouble gaining access to the services. The one final thing I would say is there's been a lot of the cross-town bus links cut recently, so if that's what it takes to take one journey, imagine what it takes if you've been able to take 2 or 3 buses to get yourself across the town. So I think restoring some of those cross-town bus links would also assist.
My idea is simple. We are in a position where we have to help ourselves. 4 years from now, we'll find ourselves sitting here saying exactly the same things. There is 50 million available through the United Nations. I would lay on a coach service over 1 year for the elderly and disabled. This is just little Croydon we're talking about. Croydon, the epicentre of British politics. Let's set the way. Let us as a people set the agenda for the rest of London and the country to follow. This was once the most amazing borough. And now you look around and look at yourself and ask one another, what's happened? You see people on the buses, you say, oh, what's happened to Croydon Electric? Oh, what's happened to the shops? What's happened to the playing fields? We need to stand up and be counted. I have the sponsorship, I have the funding, I have the help required, and it's the help and experience from those who have already built nations. Sorry, it's the boxing. Those who have already built nations, they've built counties, they've built cities. Those are the type of people I have behind me. I'm not a lone soldier, and I want to see us as a people unite. Politicians are not uniting with the people. This is a hands-on job. All you're going to hear is we need. But where were you until you needed to vote? I didn't see you. I've run 2 youth games, Croydon youth games, and became homeless. I put up my own house. As security for the kids, and lost. I became homeless. We want people who are entrepreneurs, people willing to put themselves out there and communicate with the people. When you talk to the people, you understand what's going on and which road to take.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Can you hear me? Okay, I'll just speak anyway. I puzzled on this about 5 years ago, and one of the things we need to restore is the power to bus conductors. It may sound really odd, but for a child who is paying cash for the fare, the 3 most important groups were their parents, the teacher, and the bus conductor. Because if the bus conductor had any trouble, they got kicked off the bus, and they didn't have enough money for the next fare. So then they had to walk to school. Then they were late for school. So then the teacher gave them a good rollicking. Then the teacher called up their parents, and the parents gave them a good rollicking. So what I know is I was found with their connections in TfL to enable the bus conductors to kind of do something or freeze to these free bus passes that all the kids have. Because they've got no fear. Well, they get kicked off the bus, they go on the next one. But if they have a freeze on that bus pass for just 1 hour, they will be late and the problem will be caught early. So that's just one of the things, and I agree with all the others. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martin, and there's a lot of rubbish in Croydon, and also there's a lot of homeless people. And we would like to do something about this.
Hello again, my name is Sean. As I said, I've been a member of Willow for the last year, and we started up some groups, and one of them was called Croydon Champions. Every Wednesday between 1 and 3, we travel to different parks around central Croydon, up Bingham Road, Lower Edgiscombe, Railway Park, and the Brickworks, and we do rubbish picking, and there's usually a few of us there, and I was just wondering why they get in such a state, and there's a bit of fly tipping sometimes. And there's one thing I was worried about, so I got bit by a dog once, is I think dogs in parks should have muzzles on so they can't bite anyone. And I've met a couple of people who've been bit by dogs as well. It's looked nice. And there's one other thing, I just wondered why so many pubs in Croydon have been shut down. I guess some of them have building flats on them. But I didn't really know why they shut down so many pubs. I think that's it really. But, so...
I go around in Croydon. I wish I could be more happy about the shops around Croydon. It's not like it used to be. A lot of the shops have closed down because trying to make Croydon a better place. But they're not thinking about people with learning disabilities. I go into a shop and because of my disability, I like to look at all the labels, but I get harassed by the shopkeepers looking at me, thinking I'm a shoplifter, and I just walk out feeling I'm very happy and not coming to Croydon. Thank you.
What gives them to make me depressed?
He just said the Wicked Centre makes him, when he's shopping in the Wicked, make him depressed.
Yes.
Hello again. Question to the candidates is how will you make Croydon a better place to live in?
There's a couple of issues here. The first one is around the town centre. Westfield obviously have control of the Wicked Centre, Hammerson have central offices. So we need to work with Westfield and Hammerson to make sure that rejuvenation of Croydon Town Centre happens. It's been allowed to slide under the current council. We need to get that back on track. The Whitgift Centre depresses all of us, the Whitgift Centre. It's a horrible place to go at the moment. So we very much need Westfield back on track. They've got control of it. We need to make them do the job properly. Fly tipping, again, I think that probably depresses all of us as well. The dirty streets are absolutely everywhere to be seen. Graffiti is everywhere to be seen as well. So we need to bring back the graffiti removal team. I've pledged that I will do that. We also need to manage the contract properly for Veolia to make sure they're cleaning the streets and doing the job that we're all paying them for. Pubs closing. Unfortunately, many pubs are closing because Sainsbury's and Tesco will pay more in rent than the pubs will. So it's very difficult. What we need to do is make sure we have protections in the local planning policies. So there are some protections there, but we need to make those stronger. Thank you.
So first of all, Lauren, I'm sorry I didn't ask the question about school buses before. Unfortunately, I wrote a very, very long leaflet that no one's going to read with 1,400 words, and just left off of the 21st proposal was actually to have dedicated school buses. There can be conflicts, I think, that take place, and particularly with those who are, have difference. It can be quite a challenge sometimes of a school afternoon. The homelessness issue is a very serious issue. It's pretty deplorable. The Labour Council allows that homeless town to exist in the underpass between the Wicked Centre and the other side of the Wellesley Road. We learned a lot, didn't we, during COVID about how it was possible to provide housing for the homeless, and that I think can be done. I've got to admit, I'm afraid, I am frightened of dogs, and Martin is right. I think there's some concern needs to be about sometimes how dogs are out of control in parks and running up to people. Some people are more frightened than others. When it comes to pubs, I think actually that the planning rules need to be changed, because we must recognise that there isn't the demand for pubs that there was, and to insist that every single pub that exists in the past is turned back into a pub means that these facilities quite often are not being put back.
There was a lot of really good questions there, so if I could just go quickly to the hidden disabilities badge. Have you seen the sunflower badge? Does anybody use that? No, but I think maybe one of the things we could easily do in Croydon is actually promote a scheme like that, so that people can wear a badge or a button that went to signify that you need a little bit of extra help and patience. And then have an education programme around the shops and the community. We can all do something about that, so that people are more sympathetic and more helpful. Why don't we think about doing that as a practical step to helping each other and teaching each other to be a bit more aware. The rubbish, I mentioned the fly tipping. We do need more education against and more enforcement against, and it can be done, the council can afford it. Fly tipping, are we up?
Very quickly, the fundamental thing, there are lots of issues there. For me, the fundamental problem is the fact that the focus has been on making profits or saving money instead of actually making people's lives better, which is the wrong way around. So developers are allowed to build luxury flats while people are left homeless in the streets. The local plan needs completely revising so it actually works for the people of Croydon, not just for people making money. Similarly, Jason's point about get more rates from shops than pubs. Who cares? Pubs are what people want, not shops. So therefore, that's what we should be doing. We need to refocus completely. It's a large... Yeah, time's up.
Firstly, we need to see a cleaner Croydon, so we need to make sure that the paid contractor is doing its job or they're fired. And I want to ignite Croydon. I want to bring Croydon back to life so all of us feel proud about everything, a check at a time. And also we need to make sure that we're bringing the right investments in. So really for Croydon as a business, we need to earn money to spend it and spend it in the right places.
Can I use some of your time? Loads of issues there. The first one about homeless people and rough sleepers. I just think, in this day and age, it's just an outrage that this actually still exists here. I mean, a lot of homeless people are veterans like myself, and I think people fall on hard times. There are plenty of empty properties in Croydon, and actually done about. Pubs, I absolutely agree that pubs are great community assets and great community places, but it's not just about the evenings and going drinking. We can use those community assets during the day and perhaps use them more widely and link in community groups and pub landlords themselves. As far as shops go, the one thing I'll say is I'm not the only person who likes to talk to somebody when I'm shopping. So I think that's not just disabilities, that's everyone.
I'll be concentrating on my Commonwealth agricultural agenda. Through the Commonwealth agricultural agenda, we'll be able to import, export, and have new footfall in the centre of Croydon. It's that new footfall that we need right now to boost our finances and make the things available that we need. We need to look into ways in which we can boost the town centre footfall and create new businesses. Without the money, without the funds for financing, nothing's happening. Thank you.
So what's the cause of the problem? And then we solve the problem. So the cause of the problem, in part, is that sociability and the social conversation has declined. We've had 2 years of being locked in homes, etc. And the kids have got used to either strutting or pushing or bullying, etc., rather than actually conversation. So I propose to have improvised comedy workshops in the pubs for all the kids. Because it makes humour, it provides sociability, and it will lighten the playground. It may not cost very much, it may not be glamorous, but I think it could well do the job.
Could want to say about his employment and benefits?
I used to be a volunteer at Willow. Now I've got a paid job as a team leader.
I have a disability. I've got paid job as well, and I like to talk software company called Running Bridge, and I'm really enjoying it. I've got all this help from Willow, so yeah.
So, I have a little difficulty with my benefits. I get universal credit, but because you've got to go online, I'm not very computer literate. I have to get people to help me to read my journal or put a message on. And as it didn't used to be like that, it's a little bit more difficult, but I suppose we have to just have to stay like that, I suppose. Not no complaint. I say one thing about the transport I wanted to say a minute. I think I like the bus stops when they've got the time, what time the buses come out, and I was going to complain there's not enough leg room for tall people, but I think they're doing better lately. They're doing a bit better, and yeah, I was just troubled worried about my benefit. Very sorry. Thank you, everyone.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Martin again. I'm disabled and I want a job, but can't get one.
I'm looking to get a job, but I'm looking at how to get a job. Looking for a work.
Many years ago, I went to the job centre for my 6 months review. I was told by a young lady upstairs, she never met me before, her attitude towards me was absolutely disgusting. I didn't get any support from her whatsoever. When I took her name, she said, "Oh, that won't do you any good. No good complaining." So, and she said, "How do you know you've got a disability?" So I had to explain to her at the job centre, I've had it all my life. So, also, many years ago, when there was voting, sorry, I'm going to bring one. When the MPs were standing outside the voting, "Oh, hello, are you going to vote for me?" So I turned around, like I normally do, to everybody that I meet, all the candidates, no matter whether they're mayor or MPs. "What are you going to do about me then?" And they didn't have an answer. So thank you, I hope you all have an answer.
And I want to say something as well. How would you make appointments and benefits easier to access for people with learning disabilities?
The mic's not on, we can't hear.
What will you do to help business employ people with learning disabilities?
Okay, well, I stayed once in the West Park and I joined a job club, which was very good, near central Croydon, and they have the highest effectiveness, according to some leading books like What Colour Is Your Parachute, in having people fit their abilities and then finding a job that matches their abilities, skills and requirements. And that's what eventually happened to me. And that's why I do the things that I do.
I'm already working with Croydon schools. If you read my booklet, you'll see I do jobs, I do community work, I lecture in classrooms and colleges across the whole of London. I've been at it for years now. I'm not paid, nobody pays me. I do it out of the goodwill of my own heart, and I've had great experiences. Now, it's not rocket science. It doesn't take a lot to understand what's needed in Croydon, and that is communication. Communication between people and the politicians. It's not happening. I have the schemes are operating right now in some of Croydon schools. Now, That's what we need to look at. If you've got a politician or a candidate who is able to have what it takes to communicate, something national government is lacking so much today, communication. Feed the nation with communication.
Stop, please.
My phone's already already. So I think what Sean says about being able to access things not just through computers, I think that's really important. What I think we need to be able to do is to bring council services to the people, not having them to either go to Bernard Webb or House, so have them in community groups like this. The problem about computers don't have empathy, they don't know what you don't know, so it's difficult to answer those questions. When it comes to bringing people jobs, I think what the important thing to do is businesses need to come to groups like Willow. They need to understand the community groups, what people have to offer. Because you can see in this room, so many people, have so much to offer businesses. It's just making them aware of what skills and abilities we've got out there.
It's time to end the discrimination that has been allowed to foster in all these departments across Croydon, in the council. This room is full of intelligent, bright, passionate people, and you deserve those opportunities like everyone else. And that's why I will make a special scheme working with businesses to make sure that you are provided with those opportunities that you deserve. And also, we will train you for any skills that you need, anywhere where you want to prove, whether it's computer literacy or anything else. I'm going to make sure opportunities are available for everyone. This is about inclusivity.
First point, in terms of accessing services, I want to restore face-to-face. I want to restore face-to-face services because nobody can deal with things over the telephone or online. People need to be able to talk to somebody, so we need to do that for services. The council has a lot of money in terms of the service it provides and the companies it works with. What I've said, I want to take those away from big multinational companies and give them to local Croydon companies, so it's providing jobs locally. And then we'll prioritise companies that are tackling discrimination, so that they're being examples of how you can provide jobs for everybody. The council needs to take a lead on that, and the council themselves need to demonstrate how to make jobs more accessible, how to make those variety of jobs available, so there are jobs for everybody within the council itself, and then asking all of the companies that we're working with to do the same thing.
The council might be short of money, but actually it still has a big procurement scheme where it buys goods and services, and you can make contractual requirements on the companies that you have a contract with. So you can actually force a company to do things like have apprenticeship schemes or supported employment schemes. And that was something we did do at Transport for London. It's something where the council and the college can cooperate together with big employers, and we can actually make that happen. We can make it happen for small employers. I also think the council needs to restore the benefits disability advisor. I know there was a role in the council so that carers, parents and people with disabilities should get advice. Thank you.
I think it's fair to say we're now coming to be kind of a bit discourteous in only having 30 seconds to answer 6 questions, in all honesty. And it's good to finish time because I will go at 4:30 because I have another meeting to go to, by the way. I think when it comes to benefits, the council has cut benefits for those who are informal carers, and that's going to have a very real effect on the community that is represented here. That's happening at a time of very high energy prices going up and food inflation, and that's something that's actually going to cost the community and actually the council a lot of money. I'm not able to answer the other questions because there's insufficient time. All very important questions, and I guess we're learning of the important issues that you're raising. Thank you.
Thank you very much. questions again. Firstly, can I just say no one should have to explain the disabilities? I think that's something really important that we all should understand. The welfare rights team was closed by the council. As Mayor, I've looked to how we can reinstate that to help you find the services that you're looking for. We need to get the doors open at the council offices so you can actually speak to officers face to face again, not through an intercom. We need to get our libraries open more often where these services can be explained and where residents can come and talk about issues. And helping business, it's about training, it's about apprenticeships, it's about awareness, so it's giving that training to businesses. Thank you.
Did you get that candidate? We want panic buttons to be safe for men and women who have learning disabilities.
We need some police officers actually walking around rather than waiting for a call to 999 and arriving in a car. And basically they used to have a whistle, it used to work. That was the panic button that people knew.
Hi, my name is Holly again. I just wanted to tell you about my story for the next question. I have been working for an organisation called Club Soda. Over 5 years now, and it's been part of my life. And working for Club Soda, it's been a big challenge for me, and I have a lovely team of people. And also, I have joined the Croydon Buddies. Over 5 years as well, working with Evie, who's sitting right up there in the audience, along with Chaz. They have been amazing, and since the lockdown happened, it wasn't happening without Chaz or Evie. Also, I have joined the Lessening newsletter group over 7 years. And I have worked with Andrew Flegg and Rachel, who's right at the back there. Hello, Rachel. Since then, Club Soda is taking over the newsletter now, and we can see what's happening with our events that are happening in Croydon community. As you know, I have joined this wonderful new group that are based in Poland House, Willow for Learning for Life. I have joined Willow for Learning for Life for 5 years as well, and they have been a wonderful team of people at Willow. They are amazing people, including Tanya, who's our director of Willow for Learning for Life, has been really amazing. Through the lockdown, she's just been getting us into more activities, getting us back to Willow for Life on a Friday afternoon, and it's just been amazing. So, The next thing is slide. I know I'm looking for slide dance. A dance company based in Croydon that is for Croydon community for over decades with Gemma, who is not here, but she has been amazing as well for the lockdown and everything, so that's for Gemma. The other one is a big mention to Croydon Mencap. I have worked with Croydon Mencap for years and years and years, and I've worked with Alan, who's now back today. I have worked with Alan before. And also been working with Abby White, who's sitting right back there. Hello Abby, and me as well, who's also back there from Croydon Mencap. And I've been with them for years and years, and they're a great team at Croydon Mencap. They put all their services for people with learning difficulties in Croydon and get people out and about. And Abby and me have been really encouraging us to go out in the community. So thank you to Abby and me to do work back there. Thank you very much.
What will you do to help the small organisations that support us to grow?
Support. I'm already working with an autistic group in Lambeth called The Second Voice. I'm also working with a couple of schools in Croydon with regard to autism, as I have an autistic son myself. So yes, support, as Gavin said, is what's needed.
In order to support the groups that have been mentioned there, all the fantastic work that's been done, then we need to sort out the finances of Croydon Council, because if we don't have our finances in good order, we won't have the funding to be able to bring to these support groups as well. So that's the first thing that we need to do. We need to make sure that Croydon Council's finances are sorted out so that more funding can be done to these support groups. Secondly, we need to devolve that funding. We need to bring it down and let more of these decisions be made, as I say, in places like this and not in Birmingham or House. So that's what I would do.
Even when the council had money, they didn't support these incredible grassroots organisations. There are so many fantastic organisations across Croydon helping so many different communities, and we need to make sure that they get not only the support but the funding that they need to help them grow and empower others. Thank you.
My current job, I work for conservation volunteers here in Croydon, and I appreciate the problems of charities working with volunteers, getting support from the council both in financial terms and in terms of things like premises and services that support those charities to be able to work. It's not just in terms of funding from the council, it's the council supporting those charities to be able to apply for funds from elsewhere, and often bringing groups together so that they can apply for joint funding together, so that you can actually get access to other money. And so there are lots of different ways that the council can support those charities to gain the money they need, have the facilities they need, to provide the support for people. I'll stop there.
The first question is always in a partnership, what help do you need? The things that might suggest themselves are the council can sometimes help provide space, it can provide training, insurance, technical assistance. It certainly can help with fundraising bids and by supporting the bigger infrastructure organisations that can support you. So I think there's a lot that the council can and should be doing, but we should be approaching it as a partnership. We're all in this together. What can we do together?
Thank you, Val. Actually, there's been a need to reform the way the voluntary sector treated actually since the 1980s. There was a report back then about making 1,000 blue. The relationship actually with different voluntary sector bodies is important and should not be concentrated in one coordinating body. Can I also say that we can work, much as the council needs to pay more money, this is what Balance has said, we need to be able to work with the voluntary sector to coordinate our bidding activity for government funding flows. And as I got through a few seconds there, from answering some of the questions before, when you had sympathising about the benefit about the job sector, I've had that experience as being a client of theirs. They can be very mean, and I have to live on a sanctioned benefit, living on a sanctioned benefit down to £50 from the 69 or 72, whatever it was, extremely hard. So I think we've got people that support it in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just going back quickly to panic buttons. Yes, let's work together and see how we can make that happen. I'm sure it's achievable. We need to fix the finances. We need to facilitate work with groups because you can access monies the council can't. So work with you to enable you to access those monies. But really, I think a meeting like this is really important in how we support you, how we work together. And as Mayor, I commit that we carry on meeting in a format like this. So we're meeting regularly through the year, understanding the issues and understanding what you need. And basically, Croydon's renewal comes from the community. It doesn't come from the top down. So my commitment is to work with you to make Croydon a better place that you all want it to be and help you to grow within that community.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. We've explained everything, but my one thing is, I don't understand that COVID is over, hopefully it is over, but past few days we have been getting ambulance in our road, cannot turn around because one side the road is blocked since May 2nd, 2020. That's nearly 2 years now. So everything, you will not explain everything. You never said anything about removing the blocks blocking the road because ambulances comes in, they will reverse, right? They cannot turn around. It's very difficult for paramedics and ambulances. So what can be done? Please, thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to say I am an anti-LTN campaigner because I've gone across the whole of London and seen how the LTNs have impacted vulnerable communities, and it is not acceptable, and yes, they do need to be removed. They got put in illegally with zero consultation. They need to be removed with a legal, democratic consultation, and our vulnerable communities should not be suffering. And just to answer your question,
it was basically more special need nurses to help people that go to hospital.
And that's a very good point, because also the LTNs have actually not allowed special need nurses and carers to be able to access the homes that they need to go to, which has meant that they can spend more time in traffic and less time with the people that need their help. So we do need to make sure we put more training to make sure that we have special needs nurses available to help our community.
I just want to ask what you're going to do about the e-scooters and the motorbikes and the cyclists riding on the pavements in Croydon and forcing us to walk in the road, and nonsense outside McDonald's, load of bikes blocking the pavement so that we have to walk in the road, and I think it's quite dangerous. And what are you going to do about it?
I hope every candidate will be allowed to answer every question, by the way. Can I just say that Ken Livingstone always used to say that if you end up with someone being not particularly an older person and you break their hip, that's life-changing. There's a really serious issue that you raise. Obviously, I, like many other candidates no doubt, have asked the police and written to the police about that issue, and it does definitely need to be pursued. When it comes to nurses, I think I'll just very quickly say that sometimes the internal market of the NHS is quite often distorting things away in terms of proper provision. But also, what we need to end is just the general attitude towards special needs. The council has waged war on people with special needs for years by wasting money in court, money we would save by not having that type of confrontation. We need more money for public services like that, which you mentioned, sir.
Shall I come back on some of the questions been asked?
I'm Kathy Canova. I'm in the community. We take our kind of days for me. I don't have to go to worker and enough. I'm independent living, triple living, I am. We take hours from my place for me. I don't have to go to worker.
So Catherine's saying that the hours on her support worker will be reduced and her support is in. Would you like to know what is going to be done about that?
There's kind of lots of questions that are being asked all at once here. I mean, clearly with support packages, the council is trying to cut support packages at the moment. So we need to have a look at that and make sure that that's being done in a fair manner and that everybody understands what the process is. So we need to look at that. Perhaps talk to your local councillors and see if they can look into your particular case on that. Just quickly on more nurses for the hospital, I think the Mayor should take on a role where they're championing more needs with the NHS and with other bodies, statutory bodies in Croydon. LTNs, I'm also opposed to LTNs and blockages in the roads, but the council is using £20 million of the money, the fines that they're raising, to run the services. So we need to replace that 20 million before we can take the blocks out. And e-scooters, yeah, they're a scourge. We need to get rid of them, we need to work with the police to do that. But once I'm mayor, I'll certainly be, or hopefully mayor, I would certainly be working on getting e-scooters under some form of control.
I think we all know that social care and NHS care is badly underfunded nationally, and it's also true that Croydon receives a very poor government settlement both to the council and to the NHS. Now, there was some research that was done before lockdown where the government itself researched and admitted that Croydon was underfunded. So I think all parties working together, with all the big organisations in Croydon, we should be really shouting loud about the needs of Croydon's most vulnerable people being neglected by the government, because I don't think anybody in the council ever wants to cut a care package, and that's something that we should all be speaking together about. The e-scooters, I think the government made a mistake really in allowing shops to sell them. Hatford sold hundreds of thousands of them, and they're actually not legal to use on the pavement, and they're not legal to use on the road. So I think they've made that decision the wrong way around. Really they should have decided where it was going to be legal and safe for them to be used before they allowed them to be sold. I think they would be okay in cycle lanes, personally, and we need many more cycle lanes. But I hate to see the pavements slowly getting encroached on by cars parking across them, and by cyclists, by rubbish. We really do need to fight back as pedestrians, and the council can have a big role in that.
I was going to say that's certainly in transport, and I think we need to redesign Croydon in terms of people, not in terms of cars. So that means pavement should be for people walking, but to stop cyclists, scooters using the pavements, we then need to make the roads safe, and that's about reducing traffic. Low traffic neighbourhoods are a part of that, but they need to be well designed. They were pushed in, but they're not illegal. The government passed the law to bring them in, and it's a conservative policy to bring them in.
but we need to look at how they've been designed and make sure they're working for people and not creating more problems than they were put in to solve. In terms of the NHS, I completely agree with Val. Nationally, we need a lot more funding for specialist nurses, specialist support, and the Mayor should be fighting that case with the government who have got all the funding from the NHS.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue on nursing and support worker care is a national issue that the Mayor has to take up. But this is the advantage of having the Mayor here. You'll have a local champion who'll be able to do that and hopefully go into bat and get the fair settlement that Croydon deserves, because Croydon doesn't get the funding for the needs that it has as a community. We can see that when we compare ourselves to other London boroughs. Adult social care is the issue that central government passes down to local authorities and then gives it less and less money each year with which to do that. And that is a situation we need to change. When it comes to LTNs, I think we need greater flexibility. When it comes to the idea of improving air quality is a great idea. The idea of reducing traffic calming and reducing traffic is good, but where that means ambulances can't go through, that is an unacceptable consequence. So just blocking the roads off is not the answer. There needs to be a flexible solution by which emergency vehicles can traverse through that. So what we need somebody who will look at all of these issues as a whole and see what we need to do and actually have a joined up approach for all the different departments, whether that be health, social care, education, or the economy.
It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Funding is the issue. Management is the issue. Now, I have two very strong sponsors who will appear at the Fairfield Halls on Thursday of next week with the idea of building care in the community centre. This situation is serious. It's becoming more and more serious every single year, where people are thrown by the wayside, sleeping in corridors, shop fronts, and it's becoming worse. Violence, as you can see, has been the knock-on effect. Care in the community, disabled people, people who have no voice, are not being spoken for. And you're going to constantly hear people say, this needs that, and this needs that. Well, let me tell you, politicians really do need to communicate. We need outside help. Entrepreneurs with the money to change things. Thank you.
There are low-traffic neighbourhoods where you can come up with a smart solution where it doesn't have to be quite so drastic, and there is the way to widen the roads but still allow other traffic to carry forward. Also, in terms of central Croydon, I don't think it's really wise to have the crisis centre, which looks like it's in the space of a supermarket. I think there's something going wrong with my microphone. In the centre of Surrey Street Market. I know it's deliberate, but you wouldn't put that in the middle of Harrods, would you? It affects the wider community and the wider businesses.
I don't often get to speak, so I'm a bit nervous. My question to you as people and councillors is, you don't have inclusivity in your boards, so you have the same people speaking on disability. You also have somebody who has told me they're a lot more clever and something than what they're making out, and they have told me that they've said that people are too scared to go to the police about them, and this is the things that need to be addressed, because there's been nobody in the council, people that work in the council or in the community, because they are a trustee on people's boards, that I can speak to about this, and I've been abusing women and getting away with it for years. I spoke to the Met Police last week and they're aware of it, and they just shrug their shoulders because they go from person to person to person. And this is somebody that you know that sits on your boards. So, and Sue Bennett as well, because I'm ignored. Nobody ever listens to me. Nobody ever hears my voice, including the champion over there who only rated people that were high functioning and laughed at me when I said that I wanted to co-chair the board. So I just don't think it's good enough. You're not listening to us. If you only want high functioning people, that's what you've got. You haven't got me. Thank you.
Obviously, lots of issues raised.
Sorry, we're sticking to 30 seconds now. It's going to be the final question.
Okay. Obviously, lots of issues raised there. If the police are involved, hopefully they will work with you. I mean, earlier on this afternoon, I committed that we carry on having this kind of forum because there's lots of people here, and it's a good opportunity for us all to meet, discuss the issues, understand the issues. And if the boards are closed to people and not accessible, let's make them more accessible. Let's get more people involved because that's the only way we're going to change it, frankly.
Do you know, in the same way that there should always be an opt-out, somewhere to go if you can't manage, to talk, to go online or to phone, you have to have a way to meet a person in the council or talk to a person. I think we should always have somebody who is the place where the protector you can go to confidentially if you feel that there's a serious problem. There should always be somebody you can go to blow a whistle and say this person is a threat in some way or is causing a problem. And I would hope that the council would want to have some kind of system where you can always go confidentially to somebody and say whatever you need to say so that they can help protect you and support you.
Can I just add one thing? I had to go to another council for them because they were concerned to contact the LADO, which is the local authority designated person. Yeah. I still don't think anything's been done because obviously that was like a third party. So there is people there like a LADO, but whether or not people know about that or anything gets done, it should be very visible. Yeah.
Just to completely agree with Val on that, there should always be routes. If something's going wrong, there should be a route for it to be reported. And for those reports to be taken seriously and properly investigated. No matter who is making the report, it should be dismissed for whatever reason. If it's a serious complaint, then that should be investigated properly and held. In terms of your point about diversity, I said that's why I want as many people to be involved as possible, not just the usual faces, not just the usual people who appear on these sorts of boards. We need to get as many people involved in the wider community, so we are hearing all of the voices, not just the ones that always speak. And we do hear from the people who don't get to speak very often.
Okay, I've heard you and I'm listening. For far too long, people in the council have been allowed to threaten and bully residents. And under my watch, that's not going to happen. It's not allowed. There will be accountability now. It's time that they actually do their job and represent you, not the other way around. That's what they're paid for, to represent the community. So that's how things are going to change with me.
Yeah, I'll echo Val and Peter's points there. There has to be ways in which this can be done. If that system is not in place, then it needs to be. If it's not communicated, then it needs to be communicated better. But also to say what Farah says, there is a toxic culture in this council, and we can see this from every single department, whether it be planning, adult social care. Throughout the whole amount, we have council officers who do not see themselves as servants of the residents of Croydon, and that has to change. Go back to a very early point when I think it's Peter that pointed out that we need to stop talking about disabilities, and actually we need to look at this, that these are barriers that society puts up that means that certain parts of our community can't be involved as much as they can. We need to focus on reducing those barriers as opposed to putting the onus on the individuals.
we used to have a situation whereby government appointed community support officers. Community support officers. That's gone. And if you look around, you'll see that even Meals on Wheels is being threatened now. Everything's threatened. So, I agree with much of my colleagues here today, much of what they said with regard to caring the community. But what's needed now is action. Thank you.
I agree sadly with Richard, and as often the solution to this is honesty and directness, and having those that are accountable accept that they are responsible for doing the things in their job they're being paid for doing. And it's one heck of a job, really is. And as you can hear, we as candidates, it's almost in every single section of the council. So.
Thank you to everyone that came to the event. Don't forget to vote on Thursday the 5th of May 2022. A reminder of the names of the people you can vote for. On the ballot paper that you mark your vote on, they are listed with their surname first. Howard, Richard Michael, Liberal Democrats. London, Farrer, taking the Initiative Party. Mckenzie, Winston Truman, Independent. Palmer, Gavin Francis Luffer, Independent. Pelling, Andrew John, Independent. Perry, Jason Stephen, Conservatives. Shawcross Val, Labour. Underwood, Peter, Green Party.